Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Shares with me, Kim Britz, powered by leadershipbydesign.co, leading the charge with insights, information, and ultimately effective results. Joining me in today's conversation, we have the wonderful Emma O'Brien. Emma, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited for our chat today.
Yes, I've got your website open here, and guys, if you want to go and check it out, it's emmaobrien.coach.com. Emma, please tell us who you are, because I know that you're in South Africa, but you have the accent. So tell us a bit about you and what we're going to be chatting about today.
So I'm a heart math coach and a Martha Beck trained life coach, and I specialize in helping people get unstuck, get out of overwhelm, and create lives and businesses that they love. I'm also a dog photographer, which is what I've been doing for the bulk of my career. The coaching is a bit of a switch over the past 2 years that's been happening. And I have 4 rescue dogs who I'm hoping are all going to stay quiet for our time together here.
Yes, let's hope. It's always. I have a lot of guests, and I'm like, it's part of the remote working family kind of orientation that you have to get used to. Yeah. So, I mean, when we chatted, you and I spoke about what could we, kick off the year with, because this will be one of the first conversations I'm having this year. And, one of the things that you mentioned was midlife crisis and pivoting from that. And, changing careers, and I mean, you've been a photographer for most of your life, and, you've pivoted and done this. Why do you, from your position and from, doing this and being in the position that you are with the clients that you have, why do you think this is such a necessary conversation to have?
I think because, especially as you get to midlife, I just turned 43. I think often you can feel like you have to be doing the same thing, especially when you get to in your 40s, where you should be stable financially, you should be achieving things, you should have all the stuff. And, I've got a daughter who has just started at university. So then you've got kind of financial commitments to pay for. It's an inconvenient time to have a career switch, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
But I look at it and think we have this one precious life that we're given, and it's important to be using it to be of value and of service, and to be doing something that really lights you up and kind of fits in with where you're at in life. And I imagine there's a lot of people listening who are thinking, I'd quite like to do something else, but I don't know if I can. I don't know where to start. So I think it's good that we're talking about this today.
Yeah, I mean, and I think what you mentioned right up front is, we have this idea that we're supposed to have it together. We're supposed to, I'm 43, I'm 45, I've reached this age. I should be X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. And the reality of that is that's not always the case. People struggle, and when I'm sure you might have the same experience when I heard about my parents going through midlife crisis, you kind of look at them going, yeah, you're those old people, right? But today I kind of look at it and I'm going, okay, cool. So I'm in my midlife, and what does that mean for me as well? And so many times I work with leaders, and I have my business that runs, and there's so many days that I kind of go, man, is this like, am I doing the right thing? Is this really what I should be doing?
Yeah.
And inevitably, when I'm doing the work, I love what I do, and I'm really good at what I do, and I get really good feedback from it. But I mean, one of the questions that we have here is you speak about the way you feel as an indication of how your life is on track with your life purpose. Speak to us about that, because I think it's one of the things most people don't understand about, they don't really understand their purpose. But why do you say that the way you feel? Why is that a good indication?
I think our somatic stuff is a really good indicator of what's happening and how happy or not we are. I've worked with clients, and I do heart math coaching, which is effectively an emotional coherence and regulation technique to calm your nervous system so you can think a bit more clearly. And I think sometimes we don't know that we're stressed until you calm down enough to feel into it. And things like stress and anxiety and depression, which are so prevalent in our society, are indicators that something is off in life. And it can be very easy to just go and have those medicated. And don't get me wrong, sometimes they need to be.
Yeah.
But sometimes if you start to listen to them, you can kind of ask yourself, well, why am I feeling anxious? Where am I? What's actually going on for me? And we were taught a great tool in the Martha Beck Wayfinder coaching training called the Body Compass, which effectively tunes you into getting in touch with your gut feeling of kind of a yes or a no. And it's a great tool to kind of line you up with what's happening in your body, which is an indicator of kind of what's happening emotionally, because our bodies tend to pick up stuff before it registers in our brains. And we got taught this technique and it was wonderful. And then I was cursing it as the year progressed last year, because I was thinking, I was going out to do photo shoots and I was thinking, I really don't think I want to be going to do this. And this is really inconvenient to not be wanting to go and do something that I've been doing for 2 decades. But I'm going to choose to listen to this, and I'm going to choose to make changes so I don't feel like that. But I think we're so out of touch with what's happening in our bodies. Our bodies and brains don't talk to each other. And it's so important that we get realigned with that, aside from the inconvenience of it then telling you perhaps want to go in a different direction. But it's a great indicator of where you are and aren't on track.
Yeah. And I mean, just from experience, from a coaching perspective, so many people avoid their emotions, right?
Yeah.
So they avoid it. They don't listen to it. They kind of have that feeling, that off feeling, and they kind of say, you're getting in the way of what I'm trying to achieve here. And it's exactly that feeling that should be paid attention to.
Yep. Yeah. And if we start to listen to it, but I think it's about getting curious about it and saying, okay, I'm feeling off about something I've been doing for a long time. What would I like to be doing instead? What does light me up? And then how can you start to make the changes so you can take yourself into a direction that feels more aligned?
Exactly, yeah. So one of the questions that we also have is around happiness, and we know that happiness, well, I don't know if everybody knows this, but happiness doesn't come from an external circumstances, right? So so the question is, so how do we create happiness for ourselves?
I think it's a great question. It's a great discussion point, because I think often we chase happiness in getting things. You and I were talking before this session about, you'll see a lot of people with fancy cars, especially at midlife. It's like, ooh, I'm going to buy a Porsche because, it'll make me happy. And you go and you get the thing and it's exciting picking it. And then you get it and you go, yeah, it's a comfortable ride, but do I fundamentally feel any different on the inside? No. And it's about how do we make ourselves happy? And I think it's understanding what does make you happy. So it'll be, in general, experiences tend to make us happy rather than things. So spending time with people that you love, that you like, doing work that's fulfilling is super important. We spend a huge amount of our lives working. So why aren't more people doing work that lights them up? I think it's this kind of being stuck. I understand being stuck paycheck to paycheck, but it is possible to shift that. But I think it's about getting in touch with that inner feeling of, when do I feel happy? And I know for some people, asking the question, when did you last feel happy? The answer might be, I don't know. And that's a tough one.
It's really investigating and really sitting down and asking that difficult question. And another sort of broad term that's been spoken about so many times before is, happiness is an inside job. And people kind of go, yeah, I'm supposed to sit and meditate. I'm supposed to sit and, find myself. And And the seriousness of that is you are supposed to find yourself. You're supposed to find and sit down and kind of go, okay, so what is it? What really does make me happy? And when you really, having that difficult conversation, or get yourself a coach to help you unpack
Yes,
that.
exactly.
That's the point that we essentially, and I love that in the information that you sent, where, because midlife crisis sounds so dire. But the opposite, or the other word you used after that was the pivot, right? So your midlife pivot, and I think that's probably a really nice reframe of what your life could actually be. So how do I pivot in my life when I got to a certain age, and I unpack this happiness thing that I'm talking about, and really, what does that look like?
Yes.
So it is about pivoting.
Yeah.
But I mean, the mindset shifts and work involved for starting a brand new business in midlife. Do you want to talk about that to us as well? Because I think you're very brave. I think it's people have asked me about coaching, and I'm like, don't do it. Like,
thanks, Kevin. Should have come to find you about 2 years ago.
No, but I'm like, I always recommend that. Like, coaching is great, and you do see people make decisions and learn and do stuff and take action, and they really do have turnaround events and life-changing events happen. But that can be just with one client, and finding regular ongoing clients is not as easy as it looks. And never mind, wanting to find someone who has some life experience, someone who's been through the mill, and who's got some, setting yourself up with the right coach is also important, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But it means starting a brand new business and tell us more about what that mind shift looks like, because that's great.
So I think it's about white knuckling through this. No, it's. I think the beauty of coming to it in my early 40s is I have been running a creative photography business for 20 years. And I remember hearing somebody at a convention I was talking at saying that it's not possible to earn a living full time as a photographer. We all know that photographers have other jobs. And I was thinking, well, this one doesn't. So I think coming at it from already having run a successful business, which is not the easiest thing to get off the ground. And it's, I have an established photography business. It ticks over. I'm sure it's much like your coaching practice. When you've got a business that's been in play for a while, it isn't that difficult to retain clients and attract new ones. I think the hard bit is, as I see it in my mind, of getting the plane down the runway and airborne. It's a slog. And I think for me, it's been taking the question that nags in my mind of what if this doesn't work into, well, what if this does work? And what am I prepared to do to make it work? Other people make it work. I've had a successful business that I'm still running. I know I can do it. And I've had a look at, reflected back on what did I do with the photography business that I can apply to the coaching business. And a lot of that is kind of jumping in even when you don't feel ready and showing up consistently, and knowing that unfortunately it takes quite a lot of showing up before you see the results. And I think a lot of people quit too soon. And I think I always look at it and think the point at which you're ready to throw in the towel is usually the point at which you just have to go a little bit longer. And I think the other thing is when I've tried some marketing that hasn't worked, is to have a look at it and go, okay, what else? Yeah. What can I do differently? Marketing has changed hugely in the last 2 decades, obviously, because when I started my photography business, it was like the internet was only just arriving, and now it's a whole different ball game. But it's experimenting and being curious about it and saying, okay, this didn't work, but maybe I could try it this way. And then having a look at other people who are successful and saying, okay, what are they doing? Without copying, but having a look and saying, what are they doing? What strategies are they employing? And how could I apply that in my own way to my business? And I think the other thing is to have the value of having a coach. is having somebody else to work with you, to idea bounce, to hold you accountable, and to kind of support you, because it's difficult. It's a minefield of kind of falling down, picking yourself back up again and going again. And it does take an awful amount of resilience to do that. So part of me is like, Emma, have you gone completely mad? And then part of me is, I know that this will pay off and I will have a business that kind of works around the lifestyle that I want.
So, I mean, one of the questions is why are you shifting careers? And, you know, why is it being, because what's beautiful about the process is that you have run a successful photography business. So you, business is business, right? And so you know how that runs, and that's great, because that also gives you evidence for yourself and proof to your own mind, kind of going, well, I've done it before, I can do it again.
Yeah.
And, you know, so if you have that strategy in play, and that's a really good thing. But you know, going from, because it's pretty different. It's not even in the same kind of industry. It's like completely. So why the big shift?
Yeah, I think there's a few reasons. The photography is very time intensive, and it also means a lot of the time going out to go and do photo shoots. So for every photo shoot I do, it's probably really a day's work with the editing and meeting clients afterwards, printing stuff. And I started to have a look at kind of really the financial payoff of that. And it's an awful lot of work for I mean, I earn a good income from it, but it's very labor intensive.
Yeah.
And I've had 2 decades of working pretty much every weekend. And there's the part of me that screams, don't make me go and do this. It's the part of me that says, can I just have a bit of normality? Could we have a weekend where there's no work happening? I think that the thing is, when you have your own business, when you're an entrepreneur, you're never not thinking about it. And for you, it's just, unfortunately, that's what you sign up for. But I think there's a difference between thinking about it and worrying about it. And to the second part of it, really, with the shift, is my family are in the UK. My parents and my daughter are in the UK. We lost my stepmom last year, and I'm very aware that there could come a time in the future where one of my parents is unwell and I need to go to the UK for an extended period.
Yeah.
My photography business will be, if I'm not there, I can't work. It requires me to physically be somewhere. And I think with a coaching business, I need a laptop and an internet connection, and I can continue to work. It gives me that flexibility. That is quite a source of anxiety for me, that is going to be something that happens, and I wouldn't want to not be able to be there if somebody needed me. So I think there's that aspect. And then, you know, I've got 20 years of entrepreneurial experience, so I do business coaching, for small business coaching as well as life coaching. I enjoy helping people shift, because I've been really stuck in my career. I know how awful it is, and I know that what's possible on the other side of it. So there's that aspect as well, that it's a means of running a business that's a bit more flexible than something that's, you know, you're physically fixed where you need to be for it.
And I think, you know, I'm glad that you've shared that with us, because it takes us back to the first conversation around purpose and that feeling. You know, when that feeling is just so overwhelming that you're kind of going, I just don't want to do this. And really kind of going, you know, can I do something that doesn't require me to physically have to be there? Yeah. And can I do something that I absolutely love doing? Can I do something that still pays me and I can be anywhere in the world? You know, so it becomes a whole value shift and a whole value system that's changed, and that narrative. So I mean, so it is for you, it is you know, listening to it now, it is a beautiful pivot instead of crisis.
Yes.
You know, and it's kind of going, you know, how do I set myself up for better success? Yes. So that it speaks to making me feel good and still living in a purpose that I want to be in. And I have my weekends, and I have, you know, so how you unpacked it now, it really makes more sense to why the shift would have happened. But I mean, one of the things that you mentioned here is overcoming fear of change. And it's it's the age old kind of conversation. But yet we still go through it. We still all suffer through going through change. So I mean, for you, what was that, and how is that something that you overcame?
I think I'm still in the process of working through it. There's part of me that's really excited about a new business, and I've having shifted out of the oh my god, what if it doesn't work, because that's of no use to just sit looping like that. So let's take a step out of that. But it's just getting into the realm of possibility is a kind of an emotional shift, because fearing change is a very constricted place, and we end up in our fight or flight response when we're trapped in that thought pattern, and nothing useful happens there apart from worry, and worry never got anybody anywhere. So I think it's getting into the possibility, and I prepped very strategically for this upcoming change. I made sure I'd banked money and I saved so that I could create a bit of a gap where I don't have to take every single photography job on, where there was a bit of a financial buffer, so I can kind of allow this coaching business to unfold rather than having to stand over it and go, you need to make me money now. I think that was because it's easy for somebody listening to this thinking, oh great, well it's all right for Emma, she's just kind of stopping one thing and starting another. It's transitioning, so the photography will keep going, but on a lesser scale. So it has been some planning for this not to be a massive source of stress and anxiety for me financially. Did that answer the question there?
Yeah, absolutely. And but because that sort of leads into one of the questions posing that don't create your life around I'll read the questions. Creating a business around life goals and not the other way around. And I think that's the point here, is because when you do it the other way around, you can potentially get stuck in the fear of things, and if change ever happened. So why do you bring that to our attention, creating business around life goals?
I think if I go back to the losing my stepmom last year, it was a big wake-up call for me. I had been in hustle mode with my photography business since 2017, really. I started working with a business coach in 2016 because I had a massive episode of burnout, because I was working 7 days a week, earning no money, doing goodness knows how many photo shoots a week. And I was sort of had a moment of, what am I doing? Because I'm doing something wrong and I need to change something, but I have no idea what it is. So the business coach was phenomenal to restructure things. And then from that, we restructured things and kind of everything went in a very steep upward trajectory. So I'd been hustling a lot and I hadn't really been home much. I was very busy with work, and I had some great commercial jobs come in, and there was always this, there'll always be another time to go home. And then we all know what happened in 2020. So when I stepped off the aeroplane in February 2022 back into the UK, when I could finally travel, I hadn't seen my family for 3 years. And I walked back into a stepmom who was dying of terminal cancer. And I just thought, I have been going about this very wrong, because you can earn all the money in the world, but the one thing you cannot buy back is time with people. Yeah. And I looked at that and I thought, I'm not going to sit in this situation again. And it was starting to have a look at, how do I need to run a business so that I do have the flexibility to spend time with my folks? And I think that is what's important in life, is the people we share life with. And yet we have to work and we have to earn money. And those are the facts of existing as a human here. But it's you have a choice about how you go about doing that. And I think that's important. Not everybody realizes that. And yes, it can take time. It's taking me time to get into, I've chosen something different. It's going to take time for it to look how I really want it to look. But you have a choice. And it's about prioritizing what's really important and what matters. And that's, I think, how, our work should be centered around that.
Absolutely, and I love that. That's you share it in that in that thought process, because I think a lot of people don't. They're chasing. I have I often when I have to do goal setting for myself, I have a problem with the goal, like the word, because it always seems like really far. Yeah. So I always reframe it to, what are my next steps? What are my, to a different kind of thing. But essentially, changing your positioning around what it is you actually need. And I think that's, that's the one lesson COVID really did amplify for everybody is,
yes.
What is it that you value? And sitting on this side of COVID, you kind of go, okay, that really spoke to my value system in such a big way that yes, I value family more than I thought I did.
Yeah.
I value time with people. I value my time with people. And I think it's so important. That's why the midlife pivot is such a nice way of putting it, because you then start coming from a position of kind of looking at what is it that you actually want, what is it that you actually feel, and what makes you feel good, and how do you get there on a more regular basis, and what are those steps, and what are the tips and techniques and tricks that you can kind of come up with to get you there on a regular basis. But I mean, if we were to sum up today, and if you leave the audience with some insights on how to pivot, like you have, what do you think are some of those? Because I mean, like, there are some nice key things that you can take away from this conversation, but like from your position, like what is that? What are those tips that you can leave with us today?
Yeah, I think it's taking a moment to each day, preferably, to kind of sit with yourself, whether that's in meditation or journaling, and asking, what is it I want? What is my intention? And if you're sitting and you're, with your journal in the morning and thinking, I don't want any of the things that are happening to me.
Yeah.
I don't like this at all. What is it you would like? What is it you think you would like instead? And another, we touched on it before, a great question of when was the last time you felt truly, deeply, joyfully happy? And if you can identify that, that's very useful to sit, it's a great signpost for what you need to be doing more of in life. And chances are that'll be some sort of experience, I think, rather than a thing. So, and if it's an experience, helping people do something, where could you add that into life? And it doesn't necessarily have to mean a career change. You don't have to go all out with changing what you do for a living, but it could mean, do I go and do something to help a charity where it gives me that feeling of showing up and feeling good and helping somebody? Do I spend more time with family? Do I retrain doing something else in the evening so I can cross over and change careers in 3 years' time? But I think it's getting in touch with what is it you do want. And a great question to ask if people are sitting and listening to this and going, actually, I don't know what I want. Yeah. Is if money were no object and there were no obstacles, what would you do with your time?
Yes. And quite clearly for you, that would be like, let me help people, right? Let me help people.
Yeah. and also let me go to Mozambique and swim with humpback whales. That's on my vision board. I also enjoy experiences like that. Another thing that's on my vision board is going gorilla trekking. So I love animals. So for me, it's how can I fit those experiences in, which kind of really fill my tank, excuse the pun, with the water. But it's things like that. What is it that would light you up? I don't think either of us can sit here and say, because we're running our own businesses, we wake up every day and go, yes, this is great, because it isn't every day. But I think it's 80% of the time it should be good. You know, there's always going to be challenges in life. That's the nature of life. But I think you should be content most of the time, not discontent most of the time.
I love that. Yes. So Emma, if we have to get hold of you, what is your website, and where do we get hold of you? What's the quickest way to do that?
So the website is emmaobryencoach.com. You can email me, emma@emmaobryencoach.com, and you can find me on Instagram @emmaobryencoach. Drop me a DM. Let me know if you've listened.
Fantastic. Emma, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being here. And guys, I will put all the links in the description box below. Thanks for sharing some insights with us on pivoting our midlife and what to do about it. Thanks for joining me, and I'll chat to you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers for now.